My name is Lisa Bernstein, and I am the General Manager of M&L Transit Systems, Inc., headquartered in Woburn, Massachusetts. We are a family-owned and operated ground passenger transportation small business that has been in operation for 37 years. Our vehicle fleet consists of 2 motor coaches, 8 cutaways, 4 mini coaches, and 1 deluxe SUV. We provide ground transportation services primarily to the Boston Convention Center, Logan International Airport, and municipalities throughout the Boston metropolitan area. Since the onset of COVID-19, Congress has passed economic stimulus relief packages for airlines, public transportation, and Amtrak, but have not included the funding for the ground passenger transportation industry. Although our industry is not as big as some of the other forms of transportation, these types of services we provide are quite diverse. Companies like Greyhound provide intercity fixed route service, but over 85% of the 3,000 plus companies in our industry provide charter services and do not rely on the regularly scheduled services that are commonly associated with the over-the-road bus industry. I feel that it is important to review the proposed legislation currently being circulated for review and consideration by Congress. The draft legislation is well-intentioned, but does not meet the real needs of our industry. We have to get this right the first time, because if it is passed, there will most likely only be one round of relief. Section 1 of the proposed legislation focuses on potential grants for the over-the-road bus operators. The current package is very similar to the Air Carrier Worker Support Program in the CARES Act. The Air Carrier Worker Support Program focused on providing financial assistance to the airline industry for continuation of payment of employee wages, salaries, and benefits. Since many of the 3,000 ground passenger transportation companies are small businesses, adjustments made to the Paycheck Protection Program outlined in Section 2 will provide loans to ground passenger transportation companies that would cover employee retention requirements. We will discuss this in greater detail later on in the presentation. Grants need to be focused on providing financial relief related to the high capital operational costs associated with running a ground passenger transportation company. There has been almost zero revenue since the national state of emergency was enacted to mitigate the spread of COVID-19 virus on March 13th. As a result of this state of emergency, the majority of group passenger trips have been canceled. This industry is primarily comprised of small businesses that require operating capital in order to survive. There is a need to more clearly define the types of companies who could potentially be eligible for the proposed legislation, as well as the types of vehicles that could be included and qualify for financial relief. The term over-the-road bus was first used in 1990 when Congress passed the Americans with Disabilities Act, Section 301, 42 U.S.C. 12181. Over 29 years later, the over-the-road bus and motor coach industry has dramatically changed, and there are many different types of vehicles that are used to provide ground passenger transportation services. When drafting legislation, the term over-the-road bus will limit the number of companies that will be eligible to apply for financial relief. The term ground passenger transportation is a much more accurate way to refer to our industry. Ground passenger transportation is defined by the United States General Services Administration as including vans, limousines, motor coaches, buses, and driver services for scheduled and unscheduled routes. These different types of vehicles include motor coaches, also known as over-the-road buses, mini coaches, cutaways, ADA-equipped vehicles, vans, and black cars, sedans, SUVs, etc. Companies using all of these different types of vehicles to perform their services should be eligible and included to receive financial relief as part of the proposed legislation. Based on current social distancing practices necessary to mitigate the spread of COVID-19 and the lack of a vaccine, it is currently projected that group travel will not begin to pick up until early 2021. Because of the equipment necessary to perform our services, our industry is very capital intensive. Our creditors have been understanding of the current situation, but they are going to want payments to resume in the near future. A monthly average of company operational costs provided by financial statements should be considered over a 12-month period, and financial relief should be provided until at least the beginning of 2021 if the industry is going to survive. In order to be eligible for relief, a U.S. DOT number related to provision of passenger transportation services should be required. This would ensure that companies are fairly vetted to receive assistance. In addition to the types of vehicles operated, we need to better define the types of services that private passenger transportation companies provide. The majority of passenger transportation companies in the United States provide charter services. Charter services include sightseeing tours, student travel, military and government, wedding and special events, casino trips, corporate groups, church groups, secondary education, conventions, employee shuttles, and athletic travel. Over-the-road group travel and tour services contribute billions to the economy annually through tourism dollars spent on hotels, shopping, attractions, national parks, and restaurants. Private sector passenger transportation companies are a major economic engine that drives these tourism dollars into the local economies across America. Fixed route intercity bus service is defined as passenger transportation service provided to the general public for compensation over specified, predetermined, and published routes between cities or terminals using over-the-road buses. An example of fixed route service is bus service between Washington, D.C. and New York City, departing Union Station and arriving at Penn Station. Passengers purchase tickets prior to departure at the ticket counter, online, or using a mobile app. Greyhound, Best Bus, Peter Pan, and Megabus are a few examples of intercity fixed route service. It is important to consider the differences between these two very different types of services and ensure that the unique challenges to these providers are addressed in the proposed financial relief package. Section 2 of the proposed legislation focuses on the Paycheck Protection Program. The Paycheck Protection Program does not currently work for private passenger transportation companies. It needs to be modified so that it will more effectively maintain employee retention. With the limited demand for passenger transportation services, right now, many employees actually receive higher pay while on unemployment. Additionally, the 8-week term does not address the path to recovery for passenger transportation companies. By the time the program expires, the industry will not have the demand necessary to recover and resume paying employees' salaries and benefits. PPP needs to be extended to at least the end of the year in order for it to work in the passenger transportation industry. Many drivers and other key personnel are not going to be able to wait until early 2021 and will be forced to look for work outside of our industry. Because of the specialized and highly regulated nature of our industry, enlisting an entirely new workforce once business resumes is simply not an option. The high cost of training and vetting operators for these vehicles is likely to prevent most companies from resuming services if its current employees are lost. Our industry takes thousands of cars off the road daily, relieving traffic congestion while reducing our carbon footprint on the planet. Compared to other forms of mass transportation, the motor coach has been proven to be the mode of group transportation that has the least impact on our environment. The ground passenger transportation industry provides many essential services, including crisis response evacuation, Department of Defense military transport, Capitol Hill emergency response, COVID-19 relief support services, among many other support services. We are essential to the emergency response system for our country, as well as a key component of the inner working of the tour and travel industry. This is a part of our infrastructure and economy that simply cannot be lost. In summary, we need help to cover operating costs such as equipment financing, insurance requirements, and maintenance. These costs are mounting even though our vehicles are not in service. Assistance needs to be available for the many different types of ground passenger transportation companies, not just for full-size motor coach operators. Finally, we need assistance to retain our staff until the demand for our services returns. Our industry will take longer to recover than almost any other, and our staff are not easily replaced because of the requirements to safely operate our vehicles. Thank you for taking time to watch this video. I felt it was important to discuss the proposed legislation that is circulating Congress for consideration and provide some commentary about how a few changes would allow it to better help our industry. My goal is to make sure that all of the 3,000 plus dedicated ground passenger transportation companies have a fair chance of receiving financial relief if we are fortunate enough to have Congress hear our voice. Please pass this critical funding necessary to save our industry and allow us to continue to provide the essential transportation services that serve over 600 million people and contribute to over $267 billion into the American economy annually. Thank you.